What is going on out there, everybody? Episode 7, believe it, it's 7 of the All Around Sports Podcast with your host, Jim McAllister. Great response from the interview we'd had with Sean Burley and Nick DiLorenzo. Again, I apologize for all the audio issues that were going on. I mean, they had that big cyber whatever happen, I guess that day or the day before, and we tried to record, and it was just it was a mess. But I appreciate everybody that tuned in. I appreciate everybody that, kind of fought through it with us. And, we're able to put out a show for everybody because, you know what? At the end of the day, the most important thing is to put out a show for all of you, the all-around army. That's right. All of you. We appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being a part of the show as you are. And we can't do this without you guys. And again, I just wanted to say thank you very, very, very much. Now on to the next topic, which is kind of the same topic we talk about a lot when we begin the show. And that is, again, my beloved New York Mets. Subway Series time. We have 2 games coming up against the crosstown rival. I wouldn't call it more. I mean, I know people really kind of get into the whole Met Yankee thing. And as a kid, I used to be a stone cold Yankee hater. The 90s Yankees with Jeter and all them, I couldn't stand, obviously, with the Subway Series and all that nonsense that happened. But as I got older, you kind of appreciate how they went about their business wanting to win championships. And you kind of hope that one day your team, which in my team would be the Mets, they would catch up and realize, you know what, that was the way to go about business. And now, because of new ownership, because of the vision that David Stearns have, I feel like they're in that direction of, I want to win and consistently win. So here we are, 3 games over 500, still in a wild card spot, and got 2 tough ones against the Yankees. And honestly, I think this might be what the Mets need. I feel like, especially with this team, they seem to kind of play either up or down to their competition. So this is a big deal around here. It always has been. It always will be. I still, and this has been going on since 1997, where they play every year, basically, in the season. I'm going to be honest with you. I still get pumped up for these games. There's still something about the Mets versus the Yankees that is appealing to me, and it always will be. And I think it's appealing to a lot of people, especially, Mets and Yankees fans around the country. So these games are very important, obviously in the standings for both teams. But, I think more so for the Mets because I think the Yankees right now are more kind of more or less kind of fighting for the division, but also really kind of entrenched in that playoff scenario. It's going to take a lot for them to really kind of screw that up. And I don't think they're going to. I think they're eventually either going to overtake Baltimore, which is still on the table, depending on how they get their act together, or just kind of slide into that first wild card spot, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I really think having that wild card series really helps you instead of hurts you. If you look now at the new format, okay? 6 teams, 4 teams play right away, 3 games, best 2 out of 3, okay? The other 2 teams are sitting around. In baseball, I think the worst thing that could possibly happen is not having a game the next day because baseball's so regimented, right? Like everybody plays pretty much every single day. You have an off day here and there, but for the most part, you play every single day. I think the worst thing that could happen in baseball is having too many days off. I think it really hurt the Mets in 2015 after they beat the Cubs in the National League Championship Series. They basically went 8 days without playing, and I really think that stunted their momentum and really hindered them from winning. And other things happened too, but I do think that's a factor. I really do. I think that not having time is better than having time, especially in baseball. Other sports, I think it's more of an issue to have the time, especially in like football, basketball, hockey, for instance, like where you get beat up, so physically beat up. And I'm not saying you don't get beat up in baseball, you do, but it's a different game. It's more contact. You understand. Football, baseball, basketball, it's more of a contact sport. So, I'm sorry, football, basketball, hockey, more of a contact sport. Baseball does have some contact here and there, but not as much as the other 3 sports. So you need that time to rest and rehabilitate and really kind of gain that charge back, the energy that you need. Baseball is completely different. You want to just keep going and building off the day before. So I think these next 2 games are key. I do think that meaning more for the Mets than they are the Yankees. And, I'm scoreboard watching every day now. I think now until the end of the season, I'm looking at Pittsburgh, I'm looking at Arizona. I'm looking at San Diego. I'm looking at the Cardinals, and I'm looking at the Braves. I think those teams are really the teams that I'm concerned about what they're doing every single day and making sure that, if, say, the Mets win or the Mets lose, I got to see where everybody else is because I think that's really the cluster of teams that are going to be in this long haul. Wouldn't shock me if Pittsburgh makes a move. St. Louis is going to make a move. Atlanta's going to make a move. Now they don't have Albies for 8 weeks. That hurts them a lot. I think we make moves too. I think we make bullpen moves. I think that, and it wouldn't shock me if they get another outfielder. I think that's on the table now. I think the DJ Stewart experiment is long past its, shelf life. I think he's kind of the next one that might be jettisoned out of here just because of his production and the time that he has been on the field hasn't been very good. So you look at like the Martes, the Gamels, the DJ Stewarts, I think they're expendable. If McNeil continues to hit like this, he may be the right fielder. Because you can't take Iglesias out of the lineup. I think Iglesias kind of proven himself as the everyday, either second baseman, or if you want to give Vientos a day, you can slide him over to third. I think the formula now is, especially depending on how Marte's health is, and that's a huge question mark because you really don't know with him. And even when he comes back, what are you going to do with him? Do you platoon him and McNeil? I mean, that's on the table too. So let's, use this logic right now of where they're going to be position-wise, okay? And it'll kind of bring it all full circle. Let's say Marte comes back, he's healthy. Let's say DJ Stewart, is gone because of a bullpen move here and there, okay? So we're going to take him out of the equation. We're going to take Gamble out of the equation because I think they're both going to be gone. Your right fielder then basically is McNeil and Marte in a platoon situation, righty-lefty. You have Bader in center field, who I think is locked in. You can slide Nimmo in there on days you want to give him a day off. Same with Nimmo. You will have Tyrone Taylor as your kind of secondary outfielder, defensive replacement kind of player, which is good, I think. Pinch runner, whatever you want to use with him. Alvarez has been amazing behind the plate. Even Terrens, I think the Mets have the best 1-2 catching combo in the major leagues right now. You see how the pitching staff responds to Alvarez and how he is so demonstrative behind the plate. He's in control, and I think for any catcher that you have out there, he needs to be in control of the entire game. You can see it. They feed off of his energy, especially defensively. And Terrens, I think when you put him in the game, you don't really lose much, to be completely honest, offensively and defensively. I think Vientos is your third baseman moving forward. I think that obviously Lindor is entrenched in where he is, and he's been playing outstanding. You can't say anything bad about Francisco Lindor and the way he's been since the move to the leadoff spot. He's been a different player. I think he's more energized. And now I think you're going to see the whole package of Francisco Lindor finally. He does things on the baseball field that are so next level above the IQ of, say, the normal major league player that I think at times goes unnoticed. But he's a solid defender, great baseball IQ, and he's been hitting the ball. And he's been taking more pitches, which I think is key for him too. If you notice, especially in the beginning of his tenure here, he's always taken 2, 3, 4 pitch at bats, trying to just hit the ball 9 miles. Now, because he's in the leadoff spot, and it's really more for him to set up the rest of the team, you see him taking pitches. You see him having longer at bats, longer counts. He's in more 3-1, 3-2, situations where he can actually do some damage on the ball. And he's not afraid to hit the ball the other way, which I think was a problem for him for a long time. He was trying to pull everything. Now he's taking his hits. He's taking the ball the opposite way. And then when the time is right, he can still put one over the fence. And I think his production now is starting to really kind of take shape, which I think is key for this team. For if they're going to do anything, he's the linchpin. He's the key. I think Iglesias, he's proven now he's your second baseman. And watch the way he hustles. That doesn't go unnoticed either for me. He runs down the line for everything. You know how many infield hits he's gotten or double plays he's beaten that have prolonged innings for this team? That's huge, especially late in games or in a playoff game where you need one run and you're trying to, maybe hit the ball on the ground, guys at third, one out. You beat that out, scores a run. Now we're talking tie game, maybe being ahead. Those things do not go unnoticed for me. And I know for other fans of the team as well, people I've talked to, people that, that listen to the show, they all know that's a huge thing for any winning team, to be honest with you. Heart, hustle, the way you conduct yourself, camaraderie, that's all key. Which brings me to Pete Alonso. He's a problem. And I'm not sure that with everything that's gone on for him this year, I don't think this problem is going away. I really don't. I don't. I think the first mistake he made was firing his agent. I think the minute he signed with Boris, I think it changed everything for him. And he's a very, if you guys know, he's a very emotional guy. He's a very much he cares a lot about everything. He cares about people's perception of him. He cares about the team and winning and all those wonderful things, which makes him a completely great player. But again, I think he made a mistake going to Boris. Because if you're going to tell us every time you're in an interview that you want to be here, that you're excited to be here, no place you'd rather be, love the team, love the organization, which I all think is very true and very honest and pure about Pete Alonso. I don't think he's lying, guys. I really don't. But then if that's how you feel, why hasn't a deal gotten done when they've been talking about trying to get a deal done now for almost 2 years? And why'd you go out and get Scott Boras? Because that immediately tells everybody that you're in it for the most money. Listen, I respect Juan Soto because of the fact that, like, he basically put it out there like, yeah, I'm just going to the highest bidder. And that's cool. I don't begrudge anybody for trying to get their money. Go get your money. But what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to say is this with Alonso. Don't tell me that you want to be here, that you love being here, and then turn around and hire the most ruthless agent there ever was in Scott Boras. Which, again, your prerogative. Do what you want. But it's affecting him. It's affecting him on the plate. It's not affecting him in the field so much because I think his fielding is still where it's been pretty much consistent throughout the time here. But it's absolutely affecting him at the plate. I mean, you can just see it. It's written all over his face. He's trying to hit the ball 9 miles when all sometimes he needs to do is just, get that, base hit down the right field line and score a couple of runs. Like, you don't have to hit home runs in order to make the team productive. You got to hit the ball hard. You got to put it in the gap. You have to do things that are going to be productive for your team. And then, with your power, you're going to run into home runs. That's the beauty of Alonso. He doesn't have to try and hit home runs. If he squares one up, the ball's gone. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where he is. He's got power to all fields. So once he hits the ball, it's going to go a long way. And he hits the ball so hard. The problem is that he's trying too hard. And that this whole contract thing, you can see it written all over his face. It is weighing on him. And until this gets done one way or another, this unfortunately is going to be the Pete Alonso we're going to be, I guess, more or less kept with. And I think that's a huge problem for the Mets, especially as your cleanup hitter, your quote-unquote face of the franchise, your hometown guy that everybody wants to see, break every record that the Mets have ever had. He's got the chance to be the greatest homegrown position player the Mets have ever seen. That's all on the table. All you need to do is sign a contract. But he's not going to. And I think that's a huge, huge, huge problem. He shouldn't have been an all-star. With his numbers, production, the way he's been, it should have been Lindor, even Nimmo. I think more Lindor right now, but Alonso, I think, got in on his reputation, which graded. He's got a great reputation. And this year, I don't think he deserved it. But also, I really do think this whole contract thing is weighing on him. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he comes out and hits 3 home runs tonight. I hope he gets out of whatever he needs to get out of and produces for this team because they can go a long way if he gets hot. And we'll see where this goes. They have Quintana on the mound tonight against Luis Gil, which I think is going to be a very, very key start for Jose Quintana. I think right now he's kind of at that crossroads where we don't know what we're going to get out of him, and he hasn't been consistent enough for me to say, I want you to have the ball every 5 days. I wouldn't shock me if they went to go get a starting pitcher as well. I mean, you just saw James Paxton get DFA'd. I would love to have James Paxton on his team. I'd rather have him than Jose Quintana, I'm just going to be honest. I think Christian Scott's obviously going to be gone when Senga comes back. I think that's, kind of a no-brainer at this point. And I really want to see this team come out and do some damage tonight because they need to. You go down to Miami and you literally struggle with runners in scoring position. You're not hitting the ball at all. They need an offensive outbreak today. And I think the last time they saw Gil, they kind of got to him a little bit. Different environment, home team. They're on the road this time. They're in Yankee Stadium, totally different feel. But hopefully the result stays the same. That's what I'm hoping for, and I think every Met fan's hoping for. All right, guys, on the other side, we're going to talk to Nick Grasselli. We're going to talk Philadelphia. We're going to talk New York. We're going to talk some NFL. And I'll have some closing remarks at the end of the show. Right now, we're going to talk about our Sponsors Jump Shot Gym, a one-of-a-kind basketball training facility located in the beautiful Hillsborough, New Jersey. 8 hoops and the Dr. Dish shooting machines. If you're looking for to improve your shot, please contact jumpshotgym.com for shooting clinics, parties, and camps. Once again, jumpshotgym.com. Go check those guys out. I know they're trying to get some leagues starting to set up, and they're doing some other great, beautiful things over there. So again, one more time, jumpshotgym.com. Check them out. Brazina Home Improvements. Are you looking for any home or repair for your home and business? Contact Brazina Home Improvements at 609-581-5848 for a free estimate. One more time, 609-581-5848. Please contact them for any repair need you need, any general contracting need for your home and your business. Also, if you're looking to sponsor the show or you're looking to advertise with us, please contact me at jm14productions@gmail.com. That's jm14productions@gmail.com. Or you can shoot me a text or something on Instagram at jm14allaroundpod. Again, that's jm14allaroundpod. Please follow me there as well. Okay, on the other side, we're going to be talking to the boy wonder, Robin, Nick Grasselli. All right, guys, we are back here on the All Around. And once again, it is that time of the show to introduce my co-host, Mr. Philadelphia, the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Grasselli. Nick, how are you, my friend?
What's up? Good.
All right, let's jump right into it. All right, we got Subway Series going on this week, and then Phils are with who?
They're playing Minnesota this series.
So I brought on the open, right? I kind of was, I think it's the time of year where scoreboard watching. The Phillies are so far gone that I don't think scoreboard watching even matters anymore, right? I think right now, the Mets, the Braves, San Diego, we'll throw Pittsburgh in there, Arizona. Those are really the 5 teams, in my opinion, that I think as a Met fan, I need to keep an eye on. And I'm curious to see what those teams do now at the deadline, now that Albies is hurt, now that Pittsburgh's kind of put themselves back in this thing. Arizona and San Diego are still kind of lurking around, still kind of hovering. And then the Mets just need to just start taking off, which, depending on what moves they make, I'm hoping that they do. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. I want to see really what the Pirates, the Diamondbacks, the other teams do. And I wonder if the Mets are gonna base off their moves on if seeing what other teams do. Because if the other teams don't really buy that much, the Mets can easily, get in 1 or 2 pieces and probably be above them. So I think it really depends that the trade deadline that day is going to be interesting because if other teams are making moves and then one team doesn't, I think whoever doesn't make a move, any other team's going to go above them that actually makes a move.
I agree with you. I think that there's going to be that kind of an arms race. Somebody's going to make a move, and then somebody else is going to make a move, and then somebody else will make a side move and do this. I think that the Mets are going to go out for an outfielder and another bullpen piece. I really, truly think so. I could be wrong. There might be another move that we don't know about. Who knows? It's really just, I think it's going to be a reactionary thing, like you said. I think people are going to really see exactly what's going to happen. And again, we'll kind of see where that goes. I think the Phillies are locked in. I do think they're going to probably make a move here and there to try and really get themselves going, but I think they're coasting all the way through September at this point.
Yeah, I think the move outfield bat is the number 1 move. I think a right-handed outfield bat. The other move that they could do is I think they're going to get a pitcher who starts a good amount of games, so regular season, and then like a bullpen guy. So like Michael Lorenzen last year, someone similar to him again, not giving them the assets, like someone who can start and then like do good in the bullpen. Lorenzen didn't do great in the playoffs last year, but if you try it again, hopefully it'll work out because you definitely see that they need another bullpen piece.
Makes sense. I think that's really where they're lacking, to be honest. I think that you figure I guess in the Phillies mindset, and listen, I don't know, but I just as like a front running mindset, I'm thinking
I got to worry about the Dodgers. I got to worry about, say, I guess Milwaukee. I guess is you got to really worry about those teams, And I think that they need to kind of really worry about and kind of match up against them and say, okay, well, I need this guy to get this guy out, or I need this person to kind of strengthen my team to get, where our weaknesses are. I think that's kind of where the Phillies are right now. Again, they're coasting. Like they really don't have much to play for. And I think that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because I think you can rest guys now and kind of give them the breaks that they need to get them ready for the postseason. But also, I think you need to still play and play at a high level and kind of motivate yourself to make sure maybe the best records your motivation or something of that ilk to kind of keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I did see that most likely in August, September, they're going to go six-man rotation, which helps Wheeler, Ranger, Nola out because Ranger's been struggling. Wheeler's been all right. So that'll help them out. And their bats, I think they're going to try to test guys, see who's most ready to actually play in the playoffs. And you add that bat at the deadline, you can really try to see how your lineup will be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's really where they are right now. I mean, I think it's just completely just we're in coast mode until the playoffs. And one thing I worry about with the Phillies is that in between the end of the regular season and game one of the division series. Because you're talking about a 4 to 5 day layoff there where, in baseball, and you know this better than anybody, like in baseball, you need that everyday kind of momentum. And for them to not have that to me is a concern. And I don't know how you combat that. I don't know what the answer is with that.
Yeah, I feel like the only team that really knows is the Astros. The Astros seem they get the bye and they're fine. But then you see in the NL, the Braves, Dodgers, they can never get past. So whatever the Astros do, it works. But
I don't get
it's
it,
kind
man.
of
Like
just hope that you can
it's
heat up.
it's
Yeah.
unbelievable how consistent they have been. They were so bad, you know, and then they draft well, they do all these different things, and now they've been so consistently winning. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought this year after the first series, I thought I was like, all right, well, I guess the end's over now. I mean, they're gonna kind of retool or whatever, but look at them now, they're back in first place. So I mean, nothing changes with this team. It's amazing.
Yeah, they were like a top five worst team in like the
Yeah,
first 20 games of the season. And
yeah, they were.
they're right on top now.
It's unbelievable what's happened with this team. All right, listen, let's switch gears here. We're going to announce this right now on the show. Starting this coming later in the week shows, which most likely will be Friday, we're going to start our NFL previews. We're going to start with most likely the AFC. I'm not sure which division. Nick and I'll talk about that offline, but we will start our predictions and figure out exactly, you know, if you want to hear our takes on certain teams or what have you, tune in to us, in Nick's portion of the show. We're going to go, basically team by team, division by division. And then at the end, we'll do our predictions. We'll see how that looks at the end of the year. We'll come back to that. And then we will also incorporate the fantasy aspect of that. So the reason why I bring that up is because I know in the news cycle today, there's been high level talks about the 18 game regular season. What's your feeling on that?
I think the 18 game regular season perfect. You take one preseason game out, two preseason games. It's perfect because teams don't even care about that anymore. Two bye weeks, 18 games. In the playoffs, the best thing about it is that the Super Bowl lands on President's Day weekend. So you get the Monday off. I think that's the best thing of the whole that whole schedule if you have 18 games because that helps a lot of people out and more people will actually tune in even more than you have now and finish the whole game and watch it knowing that you have the day off next day.
Nick, they've been trying to do this for 20 years. Like you heard this years ago that they were trying to get to this 18 game season with 2 bye weeks and President's Day and everything like that. Finally, it's going to come to fruition. And I think for a multitude of reasons. One, now you can sell an extra week's worth of television to the networks, and you're just going to make more money on that. Okay. The second thing now is You now have what you said about President's Day and that built-in off day where everybody can just watch the game without worrying about work the next day. For people that, are in those professions where they have the weekends and holidays off, okay? You have that. And then again, I think they want to sell the product around the world. And now you can you'll see more European sites. You'll see now South American sites. You'll see other places now host games with that second bye week built into it. And I agree with you. I think this is long overdue. I think that, especially with the NFL, more football the better for a multitude of reasons. For people that play fantasy like we do, I think that having that extra week is key. I also think, you can kind of build your team differently now, knowing that, you have 2 bye weeks to contend with instead of 1. And I think that it gives everybody what they want, and that's more football. And I think that's kind of where this is, but it's also about money. I mean, let's be real. It's about money. It's about being able to sell more advertising, more, packages, whatever it is that you decide that you want to do. It's in front of you now, and I think it's going to eventually pass. But the players need to accept that. So now here's the kickback of this. What are you giving to the players in order for this to work? That I don't know.
Yeah, the players, I think they might be all right with the 18 game, but it's gonna hurt them more. The more injuries, the teams might start giving up even more if they're like a decent team, and they're just gonna kind of give up at the end if they have a lot of injuries. They're not gonna really compete as much. So that's the problem with it, I think. But overall, I think it's just a better idea. I don't think they ever really wanted to do the 17 games season, but it was just a step to get to 18. The 17 game season, I think, is terrible in my
I
opinion.
agree.
The
I
16 is
agree.
way better,
I agree.
and but as long as you get this step to the 18, I think it's perfect. And they're going to be at 18 games for a while, I think.
I don't think they're going anywhere besides 18. I think 18 is the standard moving forward. And I think that you have to expand the rosters. I think that's the first thing you need to do. You can't just allow, I think it was 46 or 47 that dress every week. I know you have a 53-man roster. You got to be allowed to dress more than 46 or 47 players. That's the first thing. Or expand the rosters in a way where they're not going to be compromised. Because, like you said, Nick, there's going to be injuries. Let's be honest. Like, you see it now. There's more injuries now than there ever was before. And I think it's because players are bigger, faster, stronger, first and foremost. And I also think that there's not enough time for them to get ready anymore. Those preseason games meant something. You know what I mean? It meant just getting your timing down, your rhythm down. People like on the lesser end fighting for jobs, those things. Those things are all going to go away. So now you need those extra, 4, 5, 6, whatever they decide to now, okay, now I have a little more breathing room where I can do some things here and there and not necessarily worry. But it's all about roster construction. And that kind of brings me to my next point about Hard Knocks. Okay. It's kind of funny how this whole Hard Knocks thing kind of went down because of the crux of it is Saquon Barkley. And wouldn't you know, he goes from my team to your team. And hearing those conversations and seeing what happens with this whole thing, I'm on Joe Shane's side. I'm sorry, I am. I'm on his side. Like, I'm not paying top dollar for a guy that has been injury prone, that has not produced to the level that his draft pick was. And I don't think they're a better team now without him than they were with him.
Yes, me, I'm about in the middle. I can see both sides of it. I think the worst thing about getting rid of Barkley was you're getting rid of one of the best players in recent history that you guys had. You're still his jerseys out and everything, but in
Well,
the
what does
end,
that
it's
mean?
more about the team.
Well, what does
Exactly.
that mean? Oh, they sold jerseys. He's popular. He didn't
Exactly.
produce. Like he did not produce for them. Okay. Like he had his rookie season, he was fantastic. Second year, he gets hurt. Third year, he gets hurt. He's not the same player he was 3 or 4 years ago. Okay. And they know it. He knows it. And you know what? God bless him for going to get his money. I don't begrudge him for doing what he did. It just so happens he ends up in Philadelphia. Okay. He didn't fit anymore. For what the long term vision of this team is, he was not part of that. And if you go apples to apples and you look at Devin Singletary and Saquon Barkley, you take the names out of it, the production's pretty similar. Okay, like it's pretty similar. So, are you really losing without him? Yeah, I heard John Mara say, "Oh, it's gonna be a sleepless night." Okay, you're tied to him because you have a bond with him. I get it. There's the human element of that. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and it's a cold business, and it's a business that what sometimes you need to be ruthless. And I respect Joe Shane a hell of a lot more for him being ruthless and him saying, you know what, I don't care if you were the face of our franchise, you don't fit, and if you want to fit, you're going to do it at our price and not yours. That's okay. That again, that's business.
That's 100% a fair point and probably the right point. I think a lot of people should agree with that 100%. The Giants roster is better overall now than it was with Barkley. If you're getting him Barkley money, your offensive line's going to be worse. Your defense is going to be worse. And now you're putting that money into those. And the running back, you're not getting a bad running back.
No, you're not. You're not getting a bad running back at all.
He's really not that bad.
No.
And
Is
he's
he the
going to
name
give
of
you good
Saquon
production
Barkley?
throughout
No,
the season.
he's not. Yeah, I agree with you, Nick. I do. Is he the Saquon Barkley name? No, he's not. Okay, but is he a productive running back in the NFL? Yeah, he is. And this whole team, especially for the Giants, they revolve around Jones. If Jones doesn't do anything for them, they're in trouble. Okay, but Brian Burns trade doesn't happen if Saquon Barkley's on this team. Them going out and get offensive line depth does not happen if Saquon Barkley's on this team. They don't draft Malik Neighbors if Saquon Barkley's on this team. So I think, again, they're better without him than they were with him. And again, I also think that Philadelphia just got a hell of a lot better too. Because you add a guy like Saquon Barkley, now you have Hurts and Barkley in the same backfield. That is scary. And you have the Brown, and you have Smith, and you have Goddard, and you have all these other weapons that they have. That's a scary offense, especially with a guy in Kellen Moore who's got a good offensive mind. I don't think he gets enough credit, because he's been in some bad situations. But I like Kellen Moore. I was upset when Kellen Moore went to the Eagles. So the Eagles offense, they should be putting up 35 a game.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Sirianni finally gives him the offense. Sirianni's offense was 100% his last season. And there was a report that even came out that it was his all season, which basically got our coordinator fired. But Kellen Moore's offense with this team should be easily top in the league, top 5, top 3. There should be no excuses. You have one of the best
totally
offensive
agree.
lines. You have Saquon Barkley behind that line now. Hurts with all top receivers in the league. Goddard. It shouldn't be a problem to get your offense going and winning games easily.
The Eagles' biggest downfall last year, in my opinion, from an outside perspective, okay, is that they catered more to the pass than they did the run. And I never understood that because they were so dominant in the run game that they got away from it. And for some reason, they had to prove to everybody that Jalen Hurts can pass. We know that he can pass. But if you have a run game that's so dynamic, why don't you just stay running the football? What do you need to do throwing the football all the time? It didn't make sense to me. And listen, their defense fell apart. And I think that was probably the biggest problem with the Eagles last year is that their defense completely just shut down. Like I would say probably week 12, week 13, it was over. But how do you not have an offense? Like you just said, Nick, you have an offensive line that easily is the best offensive line in football, even without Jason Kelce. Okay. You have a guy in now Jalen Hurts that his legs are just as big a weapon with him as his arm. And then you add Saquon Barkley to this mix. Okay. There's no reason why they shouldn't be, I would say, 65-35 run pass.
Yeah, I think last year, I think Hurts actually got hurt in the Miami game in his knee. And I think that's why they leaned towards more. You saw a lot of screens.
Yes.
A lot of 4 verticals. I mean, they had guys just running down the field. And the teams would blitz and easily get to them. I think there was some type of misconnection between Hurts and Sirianni. I think that's obvious. I don't think Hurts wanted to run that offense, but he just had to do it because he didn't have a choice. But that offense was bad, and they should definitely lean more running. You have AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith, you have Dallas Goedert. But when you have a special running game like you saw in 2022, and that was with Miles Sanders, and now you're adding Saquon Barkley instead. They should just run the ball. They should start the season, run the ball, and see how it works.
Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. A.J. Brown to me is a problem. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he's a problem. I think that his attitude, his ego, whatever you want to call it, could cause a lot of damage in that locker room. And if I were the Eagles, I would seriously consider a 1-for-1 Ayuk for A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I don't. The thing is, they just paid AJ Brown 3 years, $96 million. So I don't think they're gonna go away from him. I mean, you
But once
saw
he
how
doesn't get the
good he
ball, Nick,
was.
you see how he was last year. Once he never
It's
got the
true.
ball, he was a nightmare. So, I mean, why would you have that guy still on your team? I get it. Tremendous talent, unbelievable player. I'm not taking anything away from his talent level. Okay. The fact is he has a bad attitude, and when he doesn't get the ball, he moans and complains. That's a problem. Okay. Like either you're going to win a championship and do it all together, or you care more about your stats and how much you're getting paid than you do winning. That's okay too. If that's what you want to be, then go play for another team. Go play for, I don't know, give me a bad team. Go play for them. You know what I mean? But if you're going to be on a high level team, a championship caliber team like the Eagles are, that's hard for me to say, but they are. You got to buy in. And if you're not going to buy in, then you know what? You don't need to be here.
He should definitely be getting the like receptions and catches, but to win games, I think he should try to like go more towards for the team to win than force feeding him the ball. Like you can force feed him the ball, he'll catch the ball, he'll run with it, but when you actually keep doing it and doing it, I think it just ruins the team. And if he can just play that wide receiver one role and get the ball when he's supposed to, I think there should be no problem. No problem.
I think everybody gets their stats when the offense flows correct. Okay. Which means you run the ball when you need to run the ball, you throw the ball when you need to throw the ball. Okay. And once a defense commits to like trying to stop the run, that's when the deep shots are available. That's when the A.J. Browns can get a one-on-one. That's when a Devontae Smith can get a one-on-one. That's when Dallas Goedert can open up the middle of the field. All those things are kind of there because you're so committed to try and stop that running game. Okay. That's the key. But unfortunately, it takes time to develop that. And when you're in a game and say you're down 10 points early, okay, your immediate mindset is, oh my gosh, I got to throw the ball. And then you're going away from your game plan. And that's where I feel like Brown kind of steps in and goes, okay, well, I'm not getting the ball. So you know what? I'm just going to shut down. That's unhealthy. That's not a championship team, in my opinion. And that's on the coach. And I blame the coach for not nipping that in the butt last year.
I think he was out against the Giants and the Buccaneers. Was it both or it was one of them?
I think it was the Giant game. I don't know if he got hurt in the Giant game, but I remember
Or both? I
something
don't know.
happening in the
But
Giant
I
game.
think that's one of the reasons why he didn't play in the playoff game. Yeah, it was yeah. And he didn't play the Buccaneer game. And
Right.
I actually think it's because of the coaching. I actually do. I think he sat out the game because of how bad they were doing. And look, they lost. I don't think it would have made a difference if he was playing or not.
Then let me ask you a serious question, Nick. How is Sirianni still the coach?
I don't know. I didn't think he was going to make it past. I don't think a lot of the guys on the offense didn't like him. Hurts, it came out that Hurts didn't really. I don't think AJ Brown likes him. And he's just not I don't think he's a good coach. I don't care how good they do this year. If he doesn't have a good coordinator next to him that helps call plays for him, I don't he's terrible.
I'll tell
I
you
thought
what,
they were actually going to get Belichick.
that I'm glad you brought that up because that was my next point. The black cloud of Bill Belichick is hanging over everybody's head this year. Okay. Like he eventually is going to get back in because he's so close to that wins record. He's not going away. Okay. So he's looking at every team possible to say, okay, where's my next fit? And I'm shocked he didn't get the Atlanta job personally. I thought he would have been perfect there. But if I'm Belichick, obviously I'm up there in age. I want to win one more time to kind of prove to everybody that I didn't need Tom Brady. Okay. The Eagles to me are the perfect fit. I don't know if he'll do it though, because he's very loyal to the Giants. You know, he's always been loyal to the Maras and always been loyal to the Tisches, to the point where they would go to Belichick for advice on coaching. You know, I don't think Brian Daboll gets hired if it wasn't for Bill Belichick. I'm going to be honest with you. So I don't know if he's going to go to the Eagles. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world too, because they're a championship ready team. Roseman's did a tremendous job building that team. But I don't know if his loyalty to the Giants gets in the way of that. And I think that's a fact.
I think if Sirianni gets fired this season, if they don't do good or they just fail to make it far in the playoffs, it's good either between Ben Johnson of the Lions or Bill Belichick. To me, I think that's Ben Johnson held out the Lions to wait to get a good job, I think.
What about Vrabel?
I forgot about him. I don't know about I think he's gonna get a job next year.
I like Vrabel. I do. I like Vrabel a lot. I think Vrabel got a raw deal in Tennessee. I really do.
Yeah. I don't know about the fit for Philly though, to me. I think Philly leans they go offensive coach like someone like Ben Johnson. That's what they are used to doing, I think. If they go towards like Bill Belichick or some other former defensive coordinator, they're gonna have to keep a good offensive coordinator. And if Kellen Moore stays, then I think it makes sense. But if he doesn't, then yeah.
I think Philly needs a leader. Okay. And I think Vrabel's the guy I think he's kind of supersede the whole offense defense thing. Me personally, I want a guy who's a CEO head coach. I don't want a guy who's more offensive centric or defensive centric. I want a guy who's going to be a leader of men. Okay. I can hire a guy to run an offense. I can hire a guy to run a defense. And you know what? Their plans or whatever it is, I can oversee it and either approve or deny what I want to do. I want a guy who's going to take control of that locker room and go, okay, guys, either you're with us or you're not going to be here. And if you're not going to buy into my philosophies and what I'm trying to build here, then go away. I think Vrabel's that guy. I do. I really do. I think Brian Daboll's that guy too. I like the fact that Brian Daboll is unapologetically himself. You know, I like the fact that he's not afraid to just get in somebody's face and say, all right, guys, you stink. You know, and that's okay. Because you know what? Sometimes people need to hear that you're not as good as you think you are and you need to be better, including me. You know, I mean, sometimes, and listen, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to like admit it, but you know what? After the anger kind of goes away and everything kind of the dust settles or whatever, you can kind of look back and go, you know what? Maybe sometimes I do need a kick in the rear end.
It is a great point. Philly, I feel like they tend to go a weird way with their coaches. You've seen it with Sirianni, Peterson, then Chip Kelly, but
Oh,
they lean more towards, I think, football than coach that helps the locker room out. In my opinion, I think if you hired Sirianni, I think that was purely for coaching the team, their offense, the plays, a smart mind, instead of actually a coach that's hard on the players and stuff.
I agree.
So I don't think
I agree.
Sirianni is hard on the players.
I agree. I totally agree. I think he wants to be a friend. And I think that's a problem, especially if you're the head coach. You can't be anybody's friend. You can have respect for each other and you can have a good relationship with people and care about them individually, but you can't be their friend. It's like being a parent. You know what I mean? Like, I love my kids more than anything in this world. You know, I love the fact that my kids can be with me and we can talk about things and really be, you know, quote unquote, kind of on that friendly kind of level. But at the end of the day, I'm their dad. So, you know what? I'm going to do what's best, I feel, for the best interest of them. So, I think that's kind of part and parcel to being a head coach or being just any type of leadership position, in my opinion. That's what I feel that should look like. Now, everybody's style is different. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't Sirianni, he's probably been the most opposite of that ever.
He
And
looks like a
that
movie
might be
villain.
another bad. Exactly.
Yeah.
You see him on the sidelines, he's all over the place. He's I don't know if he's a head coach.
He
He might have a
cares
good
more
football
about the
mind.
camera, Nick. Like he cares more
Exactly.
about being seen. Like he cares more about almost like being the villain. Dude, nobody cares. Just go win. You know, like nobody cares about your personality. Go win games. You think Bill Belichick ever cared about his personality? He'd give you nothing in interviews. He literally stood there like that. You know, that was Bill Belichick. But guess what? He's the greatest coach I've ever seen. So you know what? I'd rather take that. So, all right, guys, that's a little taste of what you're going to get next few weeks or so. We're talking football, baby. We're right around the corner. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're going to, Nick and I, we're probably going to keep it more pro-centric and a little more fantasy-based. We are going to have some guests involved in that as well. We're going to be talking to some high school football coaches. We're going to talk about some college football coaches. We're going to try and get some guys on that cover the NFL. We're going to do a lot of stuff. So, Nick, till next time, my friend, we'll be in touch.
Yep. See ya.
Later.
What? Y'all want jigger? In a Japanese restaurant, eating sushi, drinking sake, it's me.
Welcome back, everybody, to the All Around. Once again, we thank our guy, our co-host, Nick Grasselli. Some good stuff right there. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about what's coming up, I guess, in the next couple of weeks or so. And that is the 2024 Summer Olympics over in Paris, France. Now, we're the all around, right? So we're able to kind of talk about anything we pretty much want in the sports world. So I think this is something we should really kind of, talk about and kind of get a gauge and an idea of how everybody is going to kind of consume the Olympics. Now, personally, I'm a big fan of the Olympics, especially like anything that has to do with like our country and Team USA. I'm all for. It doesn't matter if it's the World Cup. It doesn't matter if it's, the Olympics. Anything that has that kind of team, country kind of feel to it, I'm in. It's just something I've always, been a fan of since I was a kid. I remember when I was a kid watching the 1988 Summer Olympics. That was the year when Ben Johnson got busted for steroids. It was in Korea, I believe. And I remember watching it as a kid going like, wow, this guy's so fast. And then not really understanding why the medal got taken away from him. And as I gotten older, you kind of get an idea, okay, well, this is exactly why he did what he did. But there's been some great Olympic memories. I just, first thing comes to mind, obviously Michael Phelps, with everything that he did in the pool and all the gold medals he won. I just remember, watching him and being enthralled by how good he was and being able to sustain that for a long period of time. I mean, you see the guy, he's massive. Like he's a big man. And to be able to, dominate in a sport, kind of how like Tiger Woods used to dominate golf way back when. And to see him over that course of time just win medal after medal after medal after medal, it doesn't get talked about enough in sports, in my opinion, how dominant he was. And also what he's doing now moving forward with mental health, which I think is something that is important and something that obviously we're going to discuss at some point on the show as well. I think he's doing great things in that space. So I'm very happy to see that. Another thing that comes to mind, Michael Johnson from 1996. I remember him running the 200 meters and breaking that 20-second barrier, and that was a big deal back then. Now I think I'm not sure what the world record is now, but I'm sure it's under what Johnson did years ago. And again, as a kid, being enthralled by the Olympics and everything. Even like with basketball, 92, the Dream Team. I mean, how do you not talk about the Olympics and, as a fan, not talk about the Dream Team? And we've all watched the documentaries on it and how, it came about and why it came about. And I just remember watching them and going, wow, there's professional athletes. Not only are there professional athletes, it's the best team ever assembled, and they're killing everybody by 75, 80 points. That laid the groundwork for me to see what the NBA is now, some 34 years later. You see it now, and that kind of set up the Luka Doncic's, Nikola Jokic, Dirk Nowitzki is somebody that comes to mind, Giannis Antetokounmpo. A lot of these European players, Manu Ginobili, Argentina, but the international game, a lot of like the Gasol brothers and Rubio and Wembanyama and a lot of the French, players that are out there, Gobert and, name whoever you want to name, the Canadians with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Dylan Brooks and RJ Barrett. And, you can go right down the line with all these different guys that have made this game international now. And that's all because of the Dream Team. That's all because of what happened in 1992 when we kind of decided, all right, enough's enough. We're tired of getting our butts kicked. We're going to send the best of the best out there and kill you all. And that's exactly what they did. And they did it for a long time, until I think it was 2004, the Athens games, where the world started to catch up. And we were kind of caught in a bind where guys didn't want to go anymore. It wasn't fun. And we sent probably the C team, I guess. You had a very young LeBron James, very young Dwayne Wade, very young Carmelo Anthony, which I think they were at that point maybe first or second year in the league. I remember Richard Jefferson was on that team, and okay, I mean, it kind of tells you everything you need to know about that team. If he's going to be one of your best players on the team, then you're in trouble. So obviously we didn't really fare that well in those Olympics, but the birth of that was 2008, where you had a lot of the same players return, but 4 years older, much more wiser and understanding how the game is played. Plus, you had the best players. They called it the Redeem Team for a reason. I mean, if you look at that team, Kobe Bryant, Jason Kidd, Amari Stoudemire in his prime. I believe Carlos Boozer was on that team. And then again, LeBron, Wade, Carmelo Anthony. I believe Dwight Howard was on that team as well. So that 2008 team, in my opinion, is probably the only thing that was close enough to the 92 team in regards to like talent for talent. I think if you kind of stack everybody else up, I don't think that they can compare to 92. But for some reason in my head, I think that 08 team would at least stand a chance. If you match up, the way you match up, and that's a hypothetical thing. You never see that. You can always do that in video games or whatever. But my opinion, I would love to see the 08 team against the 92 team. I still think the 92 team would win, but I think the 08 team would make it a game. But again, I'm going to be locked in, as much as I can be. Obviously, we have our priorities, family first, of course. But if I'm sitting down watching TV with the missus and kind of hanging out and the Mets aren't on, or we're not watching something that, missus and I are going to try and get, involved in, like with, different certain shows that we watch or et cetera, the Olympics is going to be on. And I know, there's stories to that. There's human interest stories. There's other things that kind of captivate the audience. And that's why these Olympics always get huge ratings when you look at them. There's a reason why NBC paid as much as they paid to keep the Olympics. I mean, it's a big deal worldwide. And I don't think it gets enough, I guess, play. It's kind of more of a back burner thing. But, when you have, children that maybe do some of those Olympic events that maybe don't get enough credit, like the field events, like the javelin and the shot put and this and the hammer throw and whatever else. You got to understand how much sacrifice it took to get them to get to that point. That's like that's the achievement. That's the goal, People that play football, people play basketball or baseball, the goal is obviously to be professional, and you want to use that and monetize that and make something out of that, which is amazing. For people that kind of fall into other things like track or say, I don't know, downhill skiing or other things of that nature, it's very hard to monetize those things. And this is kind of the platform where they're able to use that and try to do something with. And that doesn't go unnoticed for me. I like the human interest stories and all those things. I like the fact that to see people like, persevere and, really kind of have that journey kind of in the forefront where that achievement of them making it is something that's not lost on me. Let's just put it that way. I'm into the swimming. I like the diving. I'll be watching the basketball, obviously, because I think this tournament, especially this, this version of the Olympic tournament, I think is probably going to be the most competitive one you've seen in a very, very, very long time. If you've been paying attention, which I know you guys all have, Team USA is not exactly setting the world on fire. So those games are going to be, I must watch, I think is a little far-fetched, but I think they're going to be competitive enough where you're going to be engaged and watching and waiting to see what's going to happen. I'm kind of curious to see how this all plays out because they have a lot of veterans on that team and a lot of guys that are, on the back end of their careers, and they're in prominent positions. They're going to be playing a lot of minutes, and you got guys on the bench that are younger, faster, bigger, stronger that maybe could impact the game more as more of a shot in the arm than some of these other guys are. Now, listen, LeBron's been out of his mind. For some reason, he just defies youth for whatever reason. The guy's 39 years old and still looks like he's 26. It's amazing to me. So LeBron's kind of the exception to the rule, and the way he looks, the way he's going, I don't see him stopping anytime soon, guys. I'm being honest. I mean, why? Why would you stop? If you're still kind of more or less at the peak, then why give it up? But that's his decision. If that's what he wants to do, great. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. But he looks really good at 39. Okay. And I know he's going to turn 40 this year, but it wouldn't shock me if he stuck around for another 2, 3, even 4 years at this point. What's stopping him? Really? I mean, what motivation is he going to have? What does he want to do? Does he still want to play basketball? Does he want to wait for his second child, Bryce? Does he want to try and get him in the league? I mean, who knows? But again, that's his decision, and God bless him for able to make that decision. All right, guys, it's going to wrap up for today's show. When we come back later in the week, we'll talk about the Subway Series. We're going to talk about a bunch of other things. We will see. We may or may not have a very big guest. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but we may have him. We may not. Just stay tuned. Check out my Instagram. You'll know if he is available. I know he has agreed to come on the show. It's just a matter of making sure we can figure out the timing to make the interview happen. So we're going to work on that, and we're going to just kind of call it a day here. So again, thank you all very much for joining us today. One more time before we get out of here, let's check out our sponsors. Jump Shot Gym, a one-of-a-kind training basketball facility located in Hillsborough, New Jersey, with 8 hoops and the Dr. Dish shooting machines, okay? You need to build your consistent jump shot. Visit jumpshotgym.com for information on shooting clinics, camps, and parties. One more time, jumpshotgym.com. Also, check out their merchandise. Their merchandise is very cool. I think I'm going to try and go out and get one of those hoodies for later on, later in the year. So when it gets a little colder outside, you know what I mean? Brazino Home Improvements. Looking for any general contractor or repair need for your home and business? Contact Brazino Home Improvements for a free estimate at 609-581-5848. One more time, 609-581-5848. And also, if you want to sponsor parts of the show, the opening, the closing, the interviews, whatever you'd like to do, the interview I do with Nick every week, the co-hosting part of the show that we all do, please contact me at jm14productions@gmail.com. Also, you can find me on Instagram at jm14allaroundpod. Please follow me there. And we'll see everybody later in the week. Have a great one.